East Copperbelt Province brings to you The Lens, a program designed to bring insightful information on economics, mining, education, health, tourism, agriculture, environmental issues, sports, entertainment, current affairs, and many issues affecting the well-being of society.
Welcome to The Lens. I am your host, Jacqueline Muba. And on today's topic, we'll be looking at December as a month where we are raising awareness against gender-based violence. And to discuss this topic with me is Zambia Police Victim Support Unit Coordinator for Copperbelt Province, Chief Inspector Moses Kaluba, and Dr. Hope Namonje, a psychologist at Ndola Teaching Hospital. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so just to start our interview, I would want to find out what is gender-based violence. Any can pick up the question.
Okay, gender-based violence is the kind of violence that actually we can say happen between people of different genders, that is between males and females. And it happens, or rather it is perpetuated on a victim because of that gender, because of her gender. If it's a woman, because she's a woman. And this gender-based violence we are talking about is in actually different forms. So there is physical violence, there is sexual violence, there is economic violence as well as psychological violence. So if we are maybe to go maybe in details to explain what this physical violence, what constitutes physical violence. So when we're talking about physical violence, we're talking basically about physical confrontations where maybe one inflicts physical pain on another by beating, battery. It goes even to the extent of even killing, which we call murder. Then when we talk about sexual violence, we're talking about abusing another gender sexually in a sexual way, which may be forcing maybe a woman, where maybe a man has forceful sex, or rather unwelcome sex, sexual contact with a woman, or in the case of children, rather first for women, it should be without her consent, of course. Yes. In the case of children, it can be any sexual contact, whether the child has welcomed it or not, because it is considered violence or abuse because a child, by law, has not reached that majority age where he or she can make informed consent concerning sex. Then when we talk about economic violence, we're talking about maybe denial, or rather refusing to support your family financially or economically. Or maybe whereas people that are in marriage where maybe a man stops his wife from being in gainful employment. When we talk about emotional violence, we're talking about emotional kind of abuses which are psychological in nature, where maybe you would mean somebody, you are using abuse, vulgar language, maybe insults and the like. So in brief, that's what gender-based violence is.
Okay, so from the psychological point of view, Dr. Namonje, how would you describe gender-based violence?
Gender-based violence from a psychological point of view, I will also define it as a state where you kind of maybe demean, abuse and manipulate somebody based on their gender. It can be physical, it can be emotional, it can be economical, and it can be sexually. And the person who is on the weaker side, either a man or a male, is usually affected psychologically, and that's what obviously mostly is bringing the cases of depression the cases of copycat behavior, I would say maybe if a child has grown up in a home where the mother was being abused physically, that child is going to have what we call copycat behavior. It's also going to be calm just like the father was. Sexual abuses, they also have psychological impact where somebody will start feeling less of a human being, they will start being depressed, they will start having suicide ideation, others even end up committing suicide successfully.
Okay. So who are the main perpetrators of these same vices?
First and foremost, gender-based violence affects both genders, affects both male and female genders. Yes, but in terms of proportionality, based on the statistics that have been recorded over and over, we've come to discover that women are the majority victims. So meaning that men are the majority perpetrators. Sure.
Okay, from your point of view?
From my point of view, women are mostly victims, though I would say that even from the male folk we have victims, but because they don't come out to report such cases, that's why we still feel that women are the victims mostly. But I will tell you that the notion of a man has to be strong from a psychological point of view has ended up men not coming out to report such cases because they feel they're going to be described as being weak, they're going to be laughed at, they're going to be discriminated. So they tend to keep such kind of vices, such kind of acts being done on them to themselves. And that's why you find that even when you look at the rate of suicide cases, we have more suicide cases of men than women, because women have even been given a platform. They have got people who speak for them, NGOs who is speaking for the men. They should be, I think I would advocate for that. There should be an organization to speak for men, those men who cannot come out. Maybe they can go to those organizations in secrecy and report those cases.
Maybe just to chip in what I think Dr. Namonja has raised a point, a very significant point. I think yesterday when I was listening to one of the media stations, I think there was one, I can't recall which one, where there was a call on us as police to say we need to also give the same response to men who are victims of gender-based violence. We are called the same kind of attention response like we are called women. Yeah. So when I listened to that, I said to myself, okay, actually, us as police, we don't discriminate. There's no discrimination as which case we actually give attention to. As I said, gender-based violence affects everyone. And by law, actually the law, for us when we're talking about gender-based violence, we are talking about crime. And the crime, the law states that any person who commits a crime, okay, should be what? Should be arrested and taken to court. So any person includes a woman and a man. So there's no discrimination. But what Dr. Namonja has actually brought out is the issue of self-discrimination, where us men, I'm speaking also as a man, not as a police officer, we feel like if I'm abused by a woman, maybe by my wife or my sister, or maybe any other woman, maybe my girlfriend, I feel like I go to the police.
Okay, that's where I wanted to bring in a certain question to say, how does one know that they are being abused, and at which point should one take that step to go out there and seek maybe counseling and be helped?
On that one, I think on how does one know and when do they seek help, I think that's where we need to have a lot of psycho-education, because most people don't even know actually what they are going through is abuse. They are being violated. They will think it's normal. Let's say a woman does something wrong and the husband doesn't tell her anything. They just start giving her like picture. That's how they call shoulder. That person will not know that is emotional abuse. She would think, no, maybe this person is trying to punish me. They'll be slapped today, tomorrow they'll be slapped, they'll be thinking, no, this is how a relationship is supposed to be. So when there's a lot of awareness campaigns out there, people will know at this point, I need to talk to somebody, I need to take professional help, I need to report this as an abuse, as my right being violated. Okay. So mostly people do not even know when. So answering your question as to when, there's no better time to report an abuse case. When it just happened the first time, see it as a red flag. But of course, if it's couples, when people are in love, they tend to avoid the red flags. I remember Officer Kaluba spoke of economic violence. Most single parents out there are being abused in that area, and they don't know it's an abuse. You find that maybe the half parent of the children is capable of supporting the children, then they are given these flimsy excuses. They will just sit, no, he will bring the money when he's ready, no, he will bring the money when he starts work. Whether he's working or not, he's obviously having something to put on his table. So whatever that man or that woman eats, the children should eat too. So at when should they report? From inception, somebody should be able to know, this is a red flag, I need to report this.
Okay, maybe you finish up before I came in?
Yeah, the challenge which is there is that, people, there are other external factors that actually affect people prevent people from reporting. Sometimes one wants to come out maybe and report, but then there's maybe pressure, negative energy from the family members. Say, but how do you want to report your spouse? How do you want to report your husband? How do you want to report your wife? Then there are also issues of economic issues there, where one begins to worry about survival after, because sometimes, of course, maybe someone may be aware that if I report this case to the police, this person, this husband of mine or this wife of mine, or maybe this sister or this person will be arrested and will be convicted. And then now when he's convicted, what happens? How do I survive? I don't have employment. He's the one who's providing. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the issues. So sometimes people know that they are being abused, but then they are locked up in a certain world where they don't know what to do, or maybe they are afraid of going out there to go and report, because they know that once I report, police will come and pick and arrest this person. Mm-hmm. Okay, and the law, of course, when somebody is convicted, is a sentence. Mm-hmm. Then look at what happens to the other person, unless maybe other stakeholders come in with some form of empowerment, that sustainability maybe measures that will help the other person to survive.
Okay, so just on that, wouldn't you think that maybe that's one of the major causes why these victims are not coming forward to report, because they fear once I report my spouse, mm-hmm. obviously he'll be locked up and we'll have no one to provide for us. So are there any services maybe that you offer outside that to help these survivors?
Yeah, it is actually, I've put it rightly, it is one of the reasons why some people fail to report. Actually, not just failing to report, it is also one of the reasons why some people, after reporting, they come back to withdraw cases. Yes, we've got cases that are being withdrawn. So, what are we doing? What is the way forward for us as police? What are we advocating for? That's why us as police now, we're embracing other stakeholders. We are actually working hand in hand with a lot of organizations that are also having a hand in the fight against gender-based violence. Organizations like YWCA, ZCCP Kwatu, which are non-government organizations, but also have government organizations like the Department of Social Welfare that has got certain services that they're able to offer in terms of maybe empowerment, or in terms of maybe helping someone to survive. Yeah, but these organizations, they're not adequate. Looking at the number of cases that actually we receive, if it's the Department of Social Welfare, it's actually choked. They've got so many issues to attend to. So even giving them gender-based violence victims is like giving them extra work. But we need a lot of other, more organization actually to come in to empower women, especially women, because this is where we have got major problem. Like I said, in terms of statistics, they are the majority victims. So we need empowerment. Yes, we need empowerment. But for us parents of today, we can say that let's educate our children. Let's not make children to think of just getting married as an achievement. Let's educate them so that they become empowered, like you ladies on my right and left.
I agree with you, totally.
Oh, yeah. Maybe just to add on another question. So, like, if I feel I'm being abused, I heard Dr. Namonja say right there and then, at inception, a person is supposed to report. But there are people who doesn't even know where to report these cases. And mostly you would ask some people, like if you want to find out from them, why haven't you reported such a case? Mm-hmm. They will say, probably maybe if I go to the police station, maybe they will connive with my husband and something else might come out of that. So what is your take on that?
Okay, those fears, I think they are the kind of fear that we're trying to allay in our sensitizations. Yes, that's why we're doing sensitization. I think Police Command is encouraging us, our department, our Community Services Department and Victim Support Unit in particular, to go out there in the communities and inform our members of the public about gender-based violence and where they can report. Actually, we have got police stations in the let me say police posts in almost let me not say all communities, but I think in a number of communities. But then we're not saying that GBV should only report it to the police. Mm-hmm. Sometimes one can report to the hospital, okay? Because we work in hand. Like we have Dr. Namonja is working from Ndora Teaching Hospital. Mm-hmm. She's fully aware that gender-based violence is a crime, and when somebody appears before or comes to our office, or she identifies someone who is looking like who is a victim of gender-based violence. First, she interviews and advises, have you reported? Because we are linked to the hospital. In fact, all GBV cases, I would say that the process of investigations requires that the victim should be taken to the hospital. So the victim can either start with the police or can even start from the hospital. They can go to the hospital. The hospital, they know that once they attend, they ask questions. Oh, did you go to the police? No, I didn't. Then they would call. In fact, from Ndora Teaching Hospital, I've got a one-stop center there, and there's a police officer who's working from there. At the Davidson Hospital, there's a one-stop center, and there's a police officer who's working. So in all the hospitals, there's a police officer. So instead of a victim coming, like working from Ndora Teaching Hospital to come to Central, right there, they will call the police officer who's right within the premises. Then the officer will come and attend to the victim, issue a medical report, and do all the police requirements.
Okay, so Doctor...
May I just add on what Officer Kaluga said as to where they can report? Just like he mentioned earlier, most people are afraid if I report, my spouse or my partner or whoever has abused me is going to be arrested. I'll cite a case I once handled. Even when they come to report to the hospital, because that's where their psychological help is going to come from, because I had mentioned the effects of these vices. Somebody will be traumatized, they'll be depressed, they'll be suicidal, and so on and so forth. So in the process of having psychotherapy with such a person, we do and I do advise, after you go through your trauma-based therapy, suppose it's a trauma-based therapy, maybe the violence, the abuse was done maybe on social media. Somebody was violated, they were code names and they were put posts, and then somebody, because of that, they wanted that person to go to jail. So my role there was like, okay, let's look at the gravity of what it was from humanitarian ground. I didn't have to say it like it's okay for her to drop the charges. Mm-hmm. I had to tell her, okay, fine, this thing that you were violated on social media happened, let's say maybe 6-7 years back, then it has come fresh to you. It's like an open wound. You have come here for therapy. What do you think you gain for that person to go to jail? Then she tells me, okay, I just want her to be taught a lesson, not that I want her to go to jail. So maybe people should know that even if Sakaluba is here, that those cases are reported. It's not necessarily that each and every case that is reported, the perpetrator has to be sent to jail. They educate them. So just like the case I handled, I had to make sure that client had gone through trauma-based therapy. She was healed and she was able to understand, because if you just tell somebody who is injured, forgive that person, what do you think the reaction would be? So it's the lack of knowledge, lack of information, people not knowing. It's not necessarily that if I report this person will be taken to jail. They can even be educated. They are sat in a room. They have a room at Central Police, I know, and I've been there once, where they put them, oh, if you do this, they even scare them, oh, take off your shoes, bring your belt. Then that person just meant to know, okay, fine, this is the gravity of the case. If I do this, this can happen.
Yeah, like Dr. Amanda said, and coming back to your question, where you said, do some people know that they are being abused?
Yes.
I think the other side also can be true, that some people, they don't know that they are abusing the other person. Or they don't know that what I'm doing is a crime. So like she said, also through education we do that, through counseling. Of course, it's not every case, but there's certain minor cases probably that we assess to say, okay, this is not a very serious matter, but we can't just leave it because it might grow to become a big issue. So we sit them down and we counsel both. Maybe we can do, if it's a couple, we can do couple counseling, or maybe we can just counsel. Because we don't just counseling a victim is not enough. Even the perpetrator must be counseled to make him understand the consequences of his action.
Oh yeah. So Dr. Namonje, what impact does GBV have on mental health?
Okay, so like mental health being the well-being of an individual, gender-based violence has got very grave impact on, in fact, on both the victim and the perpetrator. Because one, you are going to look at the perpetrator's background. What made this person to be shaped in this way? You will find that that person might have had a similar problem from the background, which was not sorted out. He didn't go through therapy. If we say maybe somebody is physically abusing somebody or even sexually or sodomizing, usually you are going to find that that perpetrator's background has got similar or 99.9% same thing that happened to the person. So the impact will be somebody who's being abused, they will start feeling less of a human being. If it's physical abuse, they will start being in isolation. They will start being withdrawn, and just by the look, you just look at somebody, I can be able to tell that this person has been physically abused. They will be startled, like they will be jumpy all the time. They will be afraid. They can't even perform or function properly in a society. If we say sexual violence, this is when we have this, what we call copycat behavior. If somebody was violated sexually as a child, they will grow up thinking this is a normal thing. If it's sodomy, they will also start sodomizing others. They will have that behavior that they learned. Like we say, behaviors are learned. So when a behavior is learned, there's what we call reinforcement. You can change the behavior by positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement. Looking at the depression and suicide cases, most of them you find that people don't just wake up and they're depressed, they have anxiety. Most of them have gone through these abuses that we are talking about here. And if they don't get professional help, we won't know, just be saying suicide cases are surging, substance abuse. We have people who have been abused emotionally, physically, sexually. They feel like if they take substance, they are blocking their thoughts. They start being dependent on alcohol, on drugs. So all those are the effects of what we are talking about today. Okay. So as in moving forward, what do we do to curb these effects? We'll just encourage people.
We'll come on that.
Okay.
We'll come on that, yes. Mr. Kaluba, which age group is mostly vulnerable to such vices?
In terms of age group, I think children are very much are the most vulnerable in terms of gender-based violence, and I think the reasons are obvious because of their age, and also the fact that they are under the care of somebody. Yes, so children are the most vulnerable to this kind of abuse. Actually, for them, all these 4 forms of abuse affect them: physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, economic abuse. We have a lot of parents today who are only fathers, but they're not parents. Okay? We are just fathering children, or rather, we're only interested in being called a father, but not being called a parent. Because to be a father, anyone can be a father, but not everyone can be a parent. So we have a lot of children that are not being supported, that are neglected. I think even children that we are seeing on the street, whom we're now calling junkies, some of them, or maybe let me say the majority of them, are coming from broken homes, or from families that have failed to take care of them. Of course, it's not everyone, but I'm saying I think a higher percentage are coming from families where parents, maybe they are nowhere, absentee parents. They don't even know where their parents are. Maybe the father abandoned them, the mother is unable to take care of them economically. So they are the majority victims.
Dr. Namonje, from that which has been said, how can we help the so-called junkies when it comes to, because from what you explained earlier, I am able to follow that there is a certain percentage that they were abused themselves. Yes. So how do we just help them maybe recover from such?
Okay, though we don't call them junkies in my profession, we call them people or children struggling with substance use. Okay. So how
I didn't call them junkies, did I?
She did.
The so-called.
I said whom we are calling junkies.
You shouldn't. From today moving forward, even whom we are calling.
Yeah, because they are calling them actually junkies. People, they call when they say these junkies,
but they are not junkies. So they are basically human beings struggling with substance. And what was the question again?
How do we help
them
from a medical point of view?
From a psychological point of view, medical point of view, most of them, you will find that most of them that you find on the streets, they even have homes. They have homes. Some of them, they just run away from the home. They want to go to the street where they can have the freedom to do ABC. So how do we help children? As we are grooming children, just like Officer Kaluba said, there is need for parenting skills and parenting styles, regardless of whether it's a functional family or dysfunctional family, or whether it's just a single parent. Children need to be nurtured as they are growing up. I'll cite an example of not people lacking economically, working parents. Working parents rarely have time to spend with their children. What they are doing, what they are eating, it is left up to maybe the house help. So that itself has the capability to make a child grow like the child has no guidance. They come home at 5:30 p.m., they just sit, they are tired, they have dinner, they go to sleep. They don't have time to ask them how was school, they don't even know who their children's friends are. So these children who are struggling with substance on the streets, how do we help them? Coming up with an organization who can take them off the street. Of course, it's not an easy task to do. Some will still go back to the street because they are used to such kind of life. Psychoeducation, because those children are abused every day. Sexually, even, what do you call them? Ritualists?
Oh, yeah.
Those who they'll go to them and do whatever they can. So we can help by taking them off the street, because even just a drink and a snack, it's a motivation to them. Then for those who really don't have families, they've just gone, it's the same thing. Homes can come up and pick them, educate them. You know, you'll find that most of those children are very intelligent. Even when you're speaking to them, you even wonder, but how did this child end up here? Educate them the dangers of the use of drugs, because when they don't use them, they start having withdrawal symptoms. Most of them even end up committing suicide because they're not feeling the highness they feel when they're on the use.
Oh, yeah. So, well, viewers, if you are joining us, we are looking at December being the month where we are raising awareness against gender-based violence. And Mr. Kaluba, I would want to pose this question. How would someone come out of that toxic relationship in which they are?
I think Dr. Namonjo is better placed to answer, to respond to that.
Okay, because I heard you say there is a component where you sit couples down.
Okay.
Yes, so...
Yeah.
But you also come to...
Okay, maybe let me just hint on it, then she'll go in detail, because she's a mental therapist.
Yes.
Yeah, because when we talk about gender, we're also dealing with mental issues. So, of course, as we provide counseling, and we also link victims to other organizations for psychosocial help, and as well as maybe economic sustenance. Okay, there's certain services that are being offered by certain organizations that would help people maybe just to survive. Maybe it can be some form of empowerment. So basically, for us, we provide counseling. Yeah, but our main task, our main job is to arrest. Yeah, I think that's the big thing. Yeah. That's a bigger picture of us. That's what we do, because it's only us who can do arrest. There's several organizations that are doing counseling, that are offering empowerment, but there's no organization that is arresting victims of gender-based, perpetrators of gender-based violence. It is our major mandate, which is to enforce the law. Yes. So maybe Dr. Namonji.
Okay. So how does someone come out of a toxic relationship? Just like we mentioned earlier, some don't even know this is a toxic environment I'm in. And we have to teach people to learn to be independent, to be self-sustainable, because if one is in a toxic relationship, with or without their knowledge, there's something that makes them stay in there even when they don't want to. That is the dependence syndrome and attachment. Usually when people spend a lot of time together, you even having sexual intercourse, if it's a marriage, there's that kind of covenant that is formed. Mental covenant and physical covenant. You find that someone will be failing to just detach themselves from that person. So even that, the coping skills, the strategies, they come through psychotherapy sessions. So once they seek professional help, they'll be guided. Oh, this is what goes on. You are in a toxic environment. If you don't come out of it, others will ask, how do I come out of it? I think about this person every day. There are skills. The first thing that you think about, or the last thing that you think about when you go to bed, is maybe that person. So start thinking about something else. It's not easy, but it's worth it, because mostly people's lives depend on that.
Maybe just to throw in a thought on that. These perpetrators of gender-based violence are not generally bad people per se. It's not like there are people that are like every day abusing, every day inflicting physical pain or whatever. These are kind of people that today he is good. Today he's telling you, I love you. Okay? Tomorrow he's abusing you. So that on and off thing is actually one of the things that actually make victims to stay with that person, because there's certain good incentives that they are receiving from that person, despite that he is abusing them physically. Okay? So now, I think what we're looking at is the balance here. We have people that are dying, that have died in abusive relationships. Okay? And then they never took any step to report.
To report.
Counseling.
Exactly. So that's why what Dr. Namonja is saying is very, very key. where counseling is offered to these victims and also to perpetrators. Yes, so that we make them realize, so say, this is wrong and it can land them in prison. Yes.
Okay, let me just chip in. You find that most abusers, they are narcissists and they are good people, like he has said. They are not naturally good people, they are manipulators. And mostly they are intelligent. They would know, if I do this to Violet, if I do this to Hope, she will leave. So they will cover the bad side with the good side. And if one is not sharp enough, you will not say. So I usually encourage my clients, get a piece of paper. On this side, let me write the good things that Officer Kaluba does. On this other side, let me write the negatives. I'll write the positives and the negatives, then I'll weigh which ones outweighs the other. If you find that the positives are outweighing the negatives, then that person can be worked on. The goodness and that element can be salvaged. Then if the negatives outweigh the positive, then you know that that is a red flag.
Yeah.
Let me maybe speak from a practical point of view. Let me give an example of a case that I handled, I think, when I was in Northwestern Province. There was this woman who was admitted in the hospital, and she was in hospital for quite a long time, and the parents and the husband were actually there with her. But then someone, the uncle who was living in Ndola, got concerned, what kind of sickness that has made this niece of mine to stay so long in hospital? So he traveled, and when he traveled actually to Solwezi, he got wind, he got some rumors. So actually, this woman was abused physically by the husband. She had actually swallowed. So he decided to report. So I went there to the bedside, and when I reached there, as I was interviewing the woman, that's when she disclosed to say actually it's the husband. But then she didn't tell the hospital staff that she was abused by them.
By the husband.
She said something different. And by the way, the husband was actually on the bedside. He's the one who was sleeping on the bedside for all the number of days that she was there. And apparently when I reached there, he had even gone to buy food for her. So just the moment I finished recording a statement and I issued a medical report, I saw him coming in the ward. And I was in uniform like this. So he saw a cab and he ran away. But I managed to chase him and apprehended him and arrested him for assault. But unfortunately, the very day that woman died, so it turned into mud. So this is what we're talking about. These people, they try to play good husbands, good people, to cover up their negative actions, but then they still don't stop. They keep on abusing, but they still want to play good people to make the victim think, I think that was just a mistake.
Maybe it's my fault. And mostly women, they tend to think it's their fault. I'll cite an example of economic violence. Man is actually extorting money from the woman, and the woman is thinking it's okay. A lot of people are going to hate me for this out there, and it's okay as long as somebody is going to pick the sense from what is not right. So you will find that that person who's extorting money from the woman, when it is their time for them to provide, they don't provide. That is when you find that most men who are abusers, they are narcissists, so that is the act of not wanting that woman to be independent. And most of them don't know it's a crime, just like Officer Kaluba mentioned. That is preventing her from being self-sustainable in case of anything. So women out there should be able to know. You are supposed to be self-sustainable. If that woman is working, she should be able to have her personal account. Fine, whatever they say, what is mine is theirs. But in case of anything, that person should have something to lean on. And what I'm saying about it is happening out there. And women do not realize it's actually an act of preventing them from being self-sustainable. I don't know if you've gotten the point.
Yes. Mr. Kaluba, I got one part where you said the woman, from the story that you just narrated, where you said the woman couldn't tell the nurses, or rather the medical personnel, to say it's the husband who had done who had beaten her up. So now I'm just thinking, don't you think the so-called malamulo or amafunde has something to play on that also?
Culture, yes.
Culture.
Culture has a bigger role to play in perpetuating gender-based violence. Yeah, because of how people are prepared before they go into marriage. The kind of premarital lessons that they are taught. Okay? They teach a lot of secrets to say, either she yakubedi, yakubedi. And mostly abuse happens in the bedroom. So they are made to think that this I shouldn't report because it's a bedroom thing. Okay? Etichuponi nkama. There's even that song.
Yes.
Etichuponi nkama omuntu ulezunge ashi teriyakutwala pambiribiri. Yes, there are things that we should not bring out. Okay? Things that are meant to protect marriage. Okay? If I pee on the bed, my wife should not tell everyone to say I peed. Okay? But now when I'm abusing her, she should protect herself because she's the one who's going to die. She's being beaten in secret and she will die in secret, but there's no death that is a secret. Because people will ask, where is this person? First they ask, where is she? We have not seen her for some time. But even neighbors, they will not to say, I've been seeing Dr. Ho. Every morning she wakes up, she greets us. Okay? But today she hasn't greeted us. So they'll ask everyone, or maybe, where is your mother? And things like that. So it can never be hidden. So culture, yes, plays a role. And so maybe we need to revise, maybe Vanachimbusa, they need somehow to revise some of these marital teaching. They need to make exceptions to say, this should not be kept a secret because it is a form of abuse.
Dr. Hope, as a psychologist, what is it that you are doing in raising awareness on GBV?
Wow.
As an institution,
as an institution,
hospital, and maybe
I will not speak on behalf of Dollar Teaching Hospital.
Okay, or maybe as a psychologist.
As a psychologist, I do raise awareness each and every day, sometimes through the patients, the clients who come through my office, and through social media, just like your station has invited me, the NBC usually takes me up. So that is something that is ongoing for me. It shouldn't just be through the 10 days of gender-based activism now. So the awareness should continue. It shouldn't just be for this period because these vices, they are happening every day, not just during the week.
Yeah. Officer Kaluba, on that note?
For us, yes, we're raising awareness through various platforms, including the media, and we are glad that today Zanis has hosted us. Yeah, and we have got other media stations like Chimomo Radio, Sun FM here within Indora, and just I think is it last week or the other week I was at ZNBC together with the National Legal Aid Clinic for Women. Actually, they sponsored the program where they brought us as police officers on board, and I represented the police where we talked about gender-based violence and how people can prevent GBV and also report. So we're doing a lot of awareness, and we're also going flat out in communities. We're doing a lot of community sensitizations in communities and also in schools where we are targeting children because we've come to realize that when children are informed at tender ages, they get to grow up with that information, and they know how to protect themselves from abuse. Because as we talked about the different forms of abuse, I think children are prone to also sexual violence, where sometimes they wouldn't even know that they are being abused sexually, because the abusers are not just people who are outsiders. They are also family members, where maybe a father abuses the child sexually, or maybe it could be a cousin, maybe it could be an uncle. Okay, and these close family members, they don't make it appear like it is a criminal activity that they are doing on the child. So the children don't know. Like I would tell you, one child was told by the stepfather to say, what I'm doing to you, I'm just preparing to be a woman, a responsible woman when you grow up. And she thought that is the gospel truth. Until when outsiders, people who are observing this thing, they reported to the police, and when we moved in, the child said, no, I didn't know that this was wrong. I thought because it was coming from somebody I trust. So issues of trust is what actually even make them to think this is right.
This is right.
Okay, so statistically speaking, where are we as a province?
Well, as a province, statistically, I would say that for our reports as usually in quarters. So for the first quarter of 2024, we had 450 cases of gender-based violence. And this one, in comparison to the same quarter for 2023, we saw that there was a reduction of about 60.73% from 1,146 cases that were reported over the same period in 2023. Then for the second quarter, which is March to June, we recorded 1,040 gender-based violence cases, which also was a reduction by 8.2 from 1,133 for 2023. And then for the last quarter, which is July to September, we had 904 cases, which reduced by 33% from 1,357 for 2023. So if you have seen, this year we had a reduction in gender-based violence cases that were reported to the police in comparison to last year. But now, I need to make a disclaimer to say these statistics are based on reported cases. Remember, we talked about unreported cases. Okay, so we are measuring this based on people that came and said, I have been abused. Okay, yeah. So we can attribute this reduction maybe to a number of factors, which may be sensitizations. We're doing a lot of, like I said, we're doing a lot of awareness education, and when people are informed that this is a wrong, they tend to withdraw, to avoid the consequences of such action. But then again, maybe the picture can be different, that maybe people are shy. Maybe there could be several factors that are preventing people from reporting. Okay, it's quite difficult to measure the causes of the reduction or the factors that are leading to the reduction in gender-based violence cases that are reported, or the increase. Okay, because numbers may increase, but maybe it could be that people are now aware that GBV is a crime, they have to report. Yes.
Okay, so Dr. Namonje, I am just excited about this one. We've seen of late that there is an increase in men committing suicide. Yes, so I thought I'd take advantage of this interview. What could be the major causes of that?
The major causes are just like culture has an impact on how we behave in society. From way back, there's a notion that says Mwamuna Salila. Okay, the notion of Mwamuna Salila has led men not to come forward when they are struggling with anything. Okay, because for someone to reach an extent of committing suicide, it means that that person has been depressed severely, and they feel like there is no hope, there is no one to talk to.
Okay, so as we wind up, maybe your last words.
My last words to the viewers that let us report gender-based violence cases, and let us not discourage victims from reporting gender-based violence. Let us look at the serious consequences that actually emanate from this. We've talked about death. There are various other factors like mental illness. Some of them, they lead to psychological issues where sometimes people go into, Dr. Namonje agree that they go into psychosis or maybe schizophrenic kind of things.
Okay, Dr. Namonje?
My last words are that we need to encourage one another to have the mental health issues worked on before they aggravate into a severe condition, because just like GBV will make someone have a low self-esteem, get into depression. Others will get aggressive in the quest of maybe wanting to fight back. The stronger person may be able maybe to hurt the weaker gender. So we should be able to continue the awareness campaigns and make people be aware about the vices and when to report and where to report to.
Okay.
And they should know that there's help out there.
So viewers, thank you so much for listening. I've been your host, Jacqueline Mova. Thank you and bye-bye.
The East Copper Belt Province brings to you The Lens, a program designed to bring insightful information on economics, mining, education,